right, hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Shawnee, or Oodles of Sins, and today I'm here with a thrift haul. So it's been a little minute since I've been thrifting because it's just been a lot going on, and I've been trying to be more conservative with my spending, not trying to spend a ton of money on stuff I don't need, and because I do have a little bit of a problem, and the first step is to admit you have a problem. But anyway, I hadn't been thrifting in a while, and I needed to scratch that itch, and I had an empty weekend where my wife and I didn't have anything going on, so I wanted to go thrifting. So we went to, I think, 2 or 3 thrift stores. We went to 2 thrift stores. We went to one on Friday, impromptu, and then we went to the one we planned to on Saturday, and I got a good amount of physical media as well as some other things that I wanted. And before I get more into talking about what I got and showing you guys what I got, make sure you guys are subscribed and you turn on notifications so that you know every time I post. And if you like this video at the end, go ahead and give it a like to let other people know that this is a decent video. But anyway, like I said, I've been really into rebuilding my physical media collection because y'all know, with all these streaming services and these streaming sites and the constant removal of certain videos and stuff like that, and certain series and stuff on media, I really wanted to focus on, like I said, rebuilding my own media and having a nice media library. And I used to be a very avid VHS and DVD and book collector, which I really didn't consider it collecting back then because it was just buying stuff that I liked, and which is what I'm doing now. But it was something I used to do a lot when I was younger, but unfortunately I accidentally donated a lot of my DVD collection a couple years ago on accident, and I regret that because a lot of those DVDs are not easy to find anymore. But I have rebuilt the majority of my collection, and I just want to continue doing that. So same thing with books. I lost a lot of my books, a lot of my favorite books that had a lot of, important childhood memories and stuff. I don't really have that stuff anymore, but I'm very interested in rebuilding that so that I have those things, not only for the memories, but because I like it. So this haul, I got a decent amount of books and some DVDs and just other stuff. So the haul won't be completely physical media, but I will show you guys the physical media that I got. So let's get into it. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to show you guys some books that I got. And the whole haul is not just me. Okay, we didn't need that loud noise, but the haul isn't just my stuff. It's also stuff that my wife got too, and some stuff that we will be sharing. So there's some good books. I got some George R.R. Martin in there. And whenever I say George R.R. Martin, I always think about that, like the South Park where they were doing something with like George R.R. Martin's books, and Butters just kept saying George R.R. Martin. That's all I think about. But anyway, let's get into it. So to start off, we got some Game of Thrones. We got 3 Game of Thrones books. And my wife picked these up because we told each other that we're going to get into reading more this year, and she is behind. I have read 2 books so far this year, which I set my goal for 10. She set hers for 3. But yeah, so the first one we got is obviously A Game of Thrones, and this is the first book, if I'm not mistaken, in the Game of Thrones series. And we also got A Clash of Kings, and these books are pretty hefty. I used to read a lot of books like this when I was in school. And lastly, we got A Dance with Dragons, which I have heard a lot about this one. So yeah, there was one more. It was read something. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments, but we didn't get it because we were just doing too much, and I was just like, okay, I'm ready to go, because we had to go home and feed our cat and get dinner. So, but yes, we got these for one of them is $1.98 for whatever reason, I don't know, and these 2 were 98 cents. One thing that I've noticed a lot with going to the thrift stores recently is them charging like odd prices for stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I know, you know, the economy, and I know prices change on stuff, and I know that's never an ever changing thing, but I don't know. Back in my day, and even a couple years ago, I remember going to the thrift store and there was like base prices. Like, they didn't individually price things. Like, if you were getting paperback books were 99 cents. A hardcover was $1.99, maybe $2.99. But I've been seeing them individually pricing stuff, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I blame the reseller culture. Yeah, we'll get into that later about some other stuff I saw at their store, but they are pricing stuff like their eBay. They're pricing stuff like their Mercari, and it's like, this is a thrift store, but everybody wants to get rich quick. But anyway, so that's those three we got. Very excited to have those in our collection, and I can't wait to start reading those. The next book is for me, and it is Major Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. And this is a Borders, I think, version. And this is filled with a lot of his most popular works and poems. And I love Edgar Allan Poe. If you don't know, I love spooky, you know, kind of gothic, atmospheric, I can't speak English, type stuff. And I've always loved Poe's writing since I was in like middle school when I first started reading him. So I was very happy to get this. And I started reading it a little bit this morning, and I was reading The Telltale Heart because I think Telltale Heart was probably the first one that I ever read by Poe in school. Or it might have been the cask of Amarillo. Amontillado, The Cask of Amontillado. It was one of those were like the first that I had ever read by Poe when I was in school. But this was, again, I think I paid like $2 for this, which I think is overpriced, but I wanted it and it was cheaper than I would have found anywhere else. So I got it. But yes, very good quality. It's not too beaten up. So I was very happy to get that. The next few books were my wife's books, and she got Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt. And I've heard of this book. I don't know. Was this like a Lifetime movie or something? Or did they make a show about this? But I have heard of this or something. But it looks pretty good. I didn't read the blurb or anything, but it says, genteel society ladies who compare notes on their husbands' suicides, a hilariously foul-mouthed black drag queen, a voodoo priestess who works her roots in the graveyard at midnight, a morose inventor who owns a bottle of poison powerful enough to kill everyone in town, a prominent antiques dealer who hangs a Nazi flag from his window to disrupt the shooting of a movie, and a redneck gigolo whose conquests describe him as a walking streak of sex. These are some of the real residents of Savannah, Georgia, a city whose eccentric mores are unerringly absurd, excuse me, and whose dirty laundry is gleefully aired in the utterly irresistible book. At once a true crime murder story and a hugely entertaining and deliciously perverse travelogue, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil is as bracing and intoxicating as half a dozen mint juleps. So I probably will read this before her anyway, but it looks pretty interesting. But I don't know, like, I've heard about this book, or maybe I'm confusing it with something else. It's the fact that they consider it a vintage book. It was copyrighted in 1994, but was it? Oh no, it was written in 1965. Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why. I feel like there was a movie about this. Anyway, I could be looking wrong. I'll do some more research on this and I'll put some stuff on screen when I get there. But, oh no, I was reading something wrong. So maybe this was published in 1994. Yeah, 1994. That's crazy that 1994 is considered vintage. But I think vintage is anything that's over 20 years old. So I guess I'm vintage also. But this was $198. And then next she got, it's kind of dusty. She got Mary Higgins Clark. I've Got My Eye on You. And I am familiar with Mary Higgins Clark because I was a child that grew up watching Lifetime movies with my mom. And y'all know they made a lot of her stories into movies on Lifetime, but I don't know anything about this book. And this was $2.98. Maybe I can read a little blurb. 18-year-old Carrie Dowling is found dead at the bottom of the family pool. Her devastated family faces the horrifying realization that Carrie might have been murdered by someone she loved. The obvious first suspect is Carrie's boyfriend, with whom she had a bitter argument at a party she threw while her parents were away. But suspicion falls upon the Dowlings' neighbor, an intellectually disabled young man named Jamie. Was a lack of invitation to the party enough to set him off, and is the pile of wet clothing his mother found in his room a sign of something sinister? A guidance counselor at the local high school, Carrie's grieving older sister, Helene, is bent on unveiling the truth. Working closely with the detective assigned to the case, she turns up helpful clues. But the more Helene digs, the more she's putting her own life in grave danger. Interesting. Maybe I'll read this one too. I don't know. But that is that. And lastly, she got The Chain by Adrienne Migniti. And I had heard of this before on like Goodreads. A lot of people recommended this, but this book is essentially about a mother whose child gets kidnapped and held for ransom. And the mom is basically told, like, in order to get your child back, you have to kidnap another child. And it's basically an ongoing chain being run by these people. So I thought this one seemed pretty interesting too. So I might read this one. And this one was also $2.98. So that is it for the books. And that was what we got from the first thrift store. But also from that thrift store, I got a tackle box. Every time I go to thrift stores, I pick up tackle boxes because I use this to store like my miniatures, like my little miniature trinkets and stuff. But I might end up using this one for beads. And I paid $2.98 for that. And I also got this little clown doll because my grandma always had some of these. I don't know. I love these little clown dolls and stuff. But she had like the ones that hang from like the ceiling. But I thought it was cute. And I think I paid like $1 for this. But it's really cute. So now we're going to go on to the next thrift store. So this thrift store, I went a little crazy on DVDs, but I was able to get some off of my list and I was able to get a lot that I had in my collection. So the first one I got is American Horror Story Murder House, which is my favorite season of American Horror Story. And I bought this box set initially back in like 2016, I think. I got off of Amazon, and the only thing I hate is that it doesn't have the box cover because that's what my original one had. But why is that not? Why is it not attached? I don't like that. I didn't notice that. But yeah, it has all 12 episodes of the season, and it's all the disc. And like I said, this was my favorite, one of my favorite seasons. And I used to love having the DVDs because the DVDs back in the day, y'all know, they used to give all the little secret information. Like if you've never watched Murder House, the little extras disc, it tells you about some of Constance Langdon, who was Tate's mom. It tells about her other children and, you know, things that were left out of the show. And I always really like that. But like I said, I love American Horror Story. This is my favorite season. This is what got me hooked before it went downhill because I think the last season I watched of American Horror Story was New York or NYC. Didn't really like it. Didn't feel like American Horror Story. The last few seasons have not felt like American Horror Story. And that's why I didn't even bother watching Delicate. And I don't think I want to see season 13 either, but if it even happens. But yes. And then I also got Asylum, which is my second favorite American Horror season. Honestly, these two are like on the same level. They're my favorites. I know people hate Asylum. I don't know. I love it. But also, it had all of the discs in here, I think. Yeah, all the discs. I should check that, but I did go through and like look at them, make sure they didn't have any scratches or anything like that. But I don't know exactly what releases these are. But we're just going to hope it has everything on it that it is supposed to. And I think my camera's about to get overheated, so I'm going to have to hurry up and stop talking. This is what happens when you decide to film in a different setting than usual, but I will be right back. Okay, so I let my battery cool down a little bit so I can just finish the last little bit before it shuts off again. So the next DVD I got was one of my childhood favorites, and it is Urban Legend. My nieces and I used to watch this movie like crazy. Like this was one of my favorite movies when I was younger. And I had it on DVD and we used to watch it so much that it had hella scratches. So it's nice to have a version that is not full of scratches. And it says $9.99 on here, but I only paid $1 for this. And for the American Horror Stories, I paid $4.98. And lastly, for the DVDs, I got Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is the one with Jessica Biel in the minute. I always loved this one and I like watching this one. So, and I used to watch this at my sister's all the time. And it has the little booklet and stuff in there. Well, it's not a booklet, just the chapter selection and stuff. So yeah, and I buy all these DVDs and I don't even have a DVD player. We have a PlayStation, but I do want to get a DVD player at some point, in a Blu-ray player. So let me hurry because the camera is dying. Lastly, for my thrift store haul, I got a calligraphy set and it has 4 nibs, 4 pins, 5 nib selections, 18 cartridges, 1 ink converter, an instruction manual, and a tutorial thingy. And it comes in this tin. And this is the manuscript booklet. And that's what it looks like. I'm speed talking so my camera won't turn off. Obviously, this is from a thrift store, so it's already been used, which I don't mind. There's only like 2 pages in there used. So let's pop this tin open. And I'm trying to hurry. It is missing some nibs, obviously, but that's what it looks like. These are the nibs and the pins. And well, the nibs are right here. These are the ink cartridges and these are the pins. So yeah, hopefully I can do some content trying this out and seeing if it works, because I love calligraphy and I've always wanted to get back into doing it. I used to do it a lot when I was in middle school. But that is it for my thrift store haul. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this content. Make sure you like if you liked it, and make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so that I know next time you post. And I will see you on my next one. Bye.